To order, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257. That's 1-800-257-1257. Or send $19.95 for records or cassettes, or $24.95 for 2 compact discs, plus $4 shipping and handling to Instrumental Magic, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia.
This is CNN.
Settling the bills for Andrew, the face-off between state and federal governments over who pays and how much. And a campaign season battle over getting parents time off for family emergencies. Welcome to News Hour. I'm Reid Collins in Washington. Bobby Batista is on assignment today. For the hardest-hit victims of the Hurricane Andrew, life is boiling down to the basics now, finding food, shelter, and picking up the pieces. Their elected officials are back to their basic jobs, totaling up the damage and debating how to divide up the cost. While those left homeless by the storm in southern Florida are crowded into tent cities, the United States Congress now is poised to take up debate of how best to pay for this first wave of relief. Today, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tom Foley, says it is possible Congress will vote for more money than the administration has requested. Yesterday, President Bush offered $7.6 billion in aid to Florida and Louisiana, as well as the areas in the path of the Typhoon Omar out in Guam. Florida officials were quick to say that won't be enough, with the governor, Lawton Chiles, predicting the Florida bill alone could top $9 billion. Today on CNN, Senator Bob Graham, Democrat of Florida, said state and federal officials were working late last night, having another look at the numbers.
I think it will be higher than the amount which the president has initially assigned. I believe that the Congress is going to be as receptive as the American people, who've been extremely generous, compassionate, understanding, and anxious to be of help in the recovery process.
The House Appropriations Committee's Chairman Jamie Whitten says he'll introduce his own disaster relief bill today, expected to exceed the administration's proposal, and a separate version is expected to be coming from the Senate side as well. The federal response to the overwhelming numbers so far: 22,000 federal troops, more than 6,000 National Guardsmen, emergency relief checks, low-interest loans, visitations from more than half of the United States cabinet. CNN's Charles Jaco has been watching the recovery efforts in Homestead, Florida, and joins us from there now. Charles, how's it looking?
Well, Reid, it's looking pretty busy. It's just about lunchtime behind us. There are a lot of people who are going to be lining up at these mobile kitchens. As you said, the federal response down here has been massive, a little slow in starting maybe, considering the first 4 days of the storm, but massive nonetheless. The problem that's arising now is with private people who've come down not necessarily to volunteer, but to work on the recovery effort. We've talked to some of these people, and we get a lot of the same stories. For example, we talked to 2 gentlemen who came down here, roofing contractors from Arkansas. They came down here to look for work, to help people put their roofs back on. They find themselves now housed in this tent city because when they're within the first hour of their being here, their tools were stolen.
We got down here and we parked our car and decided we was going to go out and see if we couldn't drum up some work and come back, and somebody done pried my trunk open and stole all my tools. No. So now we can't work. We ain't got the tools to work, so we're just having to do cleanup.
And you're stuck here.
And we're stuck here.
You can't leave anything, you know. We done found that out the first day we got here, you know. We wasn't here 30 minutes and everything we had is gone. History, you know, the whole works.
Now, what these men say they need, if anybody can donate them, is specialized tools and work boots, especially the steel toe type of work boots, so they can get out and find work. Now, we found another gentleman who is a building contractor. He builds homes. He came here from Arizona. He said he heard President Bush's plea that anybody that could drive a nail or a hammer should come down here and work. He showed up with a compressor, a generator, complete licenses in several states, came down here capable of doing anything from home repairs to essentially rebuilding homes. He was told, he says, by the city of Homestead to leave because he did not have any Florida license.
We've had elderly people approach us outside City Hall earlier. Can you fix my roof? No, I can't. I'll pay you extra. I can't do it because I'm not legal. See, why don't you get a permit? We can't get a permit.
So what are you going to do now?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't want to just give it up and walk away because I know this town can't build itself back.
Now, this is kind of a catch-22. Earlier today, we talked to Anne Marie Gothard, who's the public affairs officer for the city of Homestead, and she told us basically that if you're a contractor and not only you're from out of state, but you're not from Homestead, forget about it. That no contractors are going to find work down here if they're not from this area, because she claims the city of Homestead has no way to verify whether or not these contractors' licenses are good and valid. So essentially a lot of people have come down here in order to work, not volunteers, they're going to make money at it, but to work to help people rebuild, and they're being told they can't. In a lot of cases, their tools are being stolen. Now, crime down here is an increasing problem, and the National Guard has been on patrol in some of the mean streets of South Florida in the devastated areas, especially at night. Facing up to that fact, CNN's Bill Delaney has that story.
Anybody in here?
On night patrol in South Florida, National Guardsmen hunt for looters. Inside a store, they probe the darkness with special night glasses in a game of hide and seek that could get them killed. From the 9 o'clock curfew until dawn, the Guard, for the most part, keeps a fragile peace.
Radio just said that there's a light blue Honda Civic that has 2 people in it that are performing drive-by shootings. Apparently they're shooting into residences, is what the radio said.
The Guard is supposed to keep order on streets which in some cases for years have been ruled by gangs and drug dealers. They can detain suspects, not arrest them, which must be done by civilian police.
It could get bad enough you could get killed down here. We've had a couple of instances where shots have been fired at us. We've had a couple of instances where we came very close to using deadly force to protect our soldiers or protect other citizens.
The National Guard troops patrolling South Florida are armed for a combat zone, weapons loaded, ready to fire. That's not surprising. What is that other military here, while armed, carry no ammunition in their weapons. 2,982nd Airborne troops are on the ground in South Florida without bullets in their guns.
We're here to help Americans. We're not here to do anything else. We're not here in a combat role. We're here in a humanitarian role.
By law, armed forces outside the National Guard and military police can't perform a law enforcement role without an order from the president. The 82nd, like the National Guard, is helping feed people, dispensing medical advice and supplies, and helping clean up. Though troops from the 82nd have seen weapons waved by street toughs, officers haven't wanted to make too much of it.
I think that there are a lot of miniature Saddam Husseins and Muammar Gaddafis out there in the neighborhoods of America who would like to make a statement.
On the still unsettled streets of South Florida, 20,000 troops are working by day and night in communities that look like, and too often feel like, war zones. Bill Delaney, CNN, Perrine, Florida.
Now, it's not all death and destruction down here. A lot of people have volunteered their time and their effort. For example, I'm here with a young lady now who has, in fact, what does this gentleman and this lady have in common? Well, this is Nancy Cartwright, who is the voice of Bart Simpson in the cartoon show, but as they say, don't have a cowman. There are legal restrictions that prevent her from doing the voice of Bart for us right now. Ms. Cartwright, what led you to come down here to work out with the kids?
Well, I was doing some business on the East Coast, and I just, I observed on the television what was happening down here, and I was just moved by it, and I felt it was my responsibility to come down here and help contribute. I came down here and just kind of took a look at what was going on, and I went to this tent that's the YMCA has put up a tent for the kids, and I started playing games with them and totally entertained them, and just had a real good time with them.
How the kids seem to be holding up. A lot of people said sometimes they bear up under this a lot better than adults do.
Well, you know what? We just started playing Duck, Duck, Bart and had a really, really good time. And I talked to them, and I was talking to their parents. I'm sponsored. This trip actually is sponsored by the Hubbard Dianetics Foundation. And, L. Ron Hubbard, America's most widely read author, he wrote Dianetics in 1950. And I read this book about 4 years ago and used this technology in my family, stress-related situations, not anywhere near this magnitude, but...
Yeah, there is quite a bit of stress in all the families down here.
Right.
And in the entire area. Well, we appreciate you being with us. Thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome.
As we said, we don't know when things are going to get back to normal around here. We do know that, as we said at the beginning, the contractors who came down here to work, who said that they came here to earn an honest buck and help rebuild, are now being hamstrung by what they say are local restrictions, and that they can't get local licenses and have been made to feel, to put it mildly, unwelcome in the city of Homestead. We'll keep following that story, but for right now, they're doing the best they can in this tent city here in the middle of what used to be an athletic field. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Homestead, Florida.
In Washington, the U.S. Senate has now approved the nomination of Edward Carnes as federal appeals court judge. The Senate first voted to limit debate on the nomination this morning and then immediately held the confirmation vote. The critics of Carnes, who has been a strong supporter of capital punishment, had argued that the Alabama Assistant Attorney General was racially insensitive.
But this is a man who has a flawed view on a very, very, very fundamental point. That you could not and should not insist that someone be put to death when you know that the jury selected was in fact biased under the Constitution.
I'll tell you what this is about. This is about capital punishment. Put yourself right out on the line and decide whether you're in favor of capital punishment or you're opposed to capital punishment, because that's what this vote is. It is not about racism. Racism is the smokescreen.
The Carnes nomination has been lingering in the Senate since January. His is likely to be the last judicial appointment that the Senate considers before the election. The House is set to begin its debate tomorrow on the Family and Medical Leave Act, a Democratic-supported measure that would require employers to provide as much as 12 weeks of unpaid leave for a new child or a family illness. This morning, President Bush was meeting with Republican congressional leaders and hinted once more that he might veto that legislation if it wins approval. Bush said also he thinks the Democrats are playing politics with this issue. After the meeting, Bush left for a political swing of his own through the Northeast. The campaign is focusing on the administration's education plan today. In Pennsylvania, high school students will get the chance to, quote, ask George some questions. Before heading back to the White House tonight, Bush will have attended a rally in New Jersey. Democrat Bill Clinton's campaigning in the South today. Yesterday, Clinton toured a packaging plant in Connecticut. The Arkansas governor said government and business was to work together to modernize the manufacturing industry in the United States. Today, Clinton will be refocusing his attention on those areas of the South considered at times Republican strongholds. He plans to address the B'nai B'rith Convention, which is being held in Atlanta. Two Republican congressmen won their primary battles despite their links to the House banking scandal. Three-term Arizona Representative Jay Rhodes squeaked to victory in yesterday's primary. He had admitted writing just 32 checks on the House bank without sufficient funds in it. Alaska's Congressman Don Young, who'd written 57 overdrafts, won his four-way primary race, too. State Representative Deborah Aronson won the Democratic primary nomination for governor of New Hampshire. This is a state that's never elected a woman to Congress or statewide office. Primary races were held in 6 states yesterday, as well as Dade County, Florida, where the hurricane delayed the voting for a full week.
Campaign USA 92 is brought to you by Verilux No-Line Bifocals. The vision you need, the look you want. None of the lines.
Bifocals? I'm gonna look just like my father. My grandfather. Wait, nobody'll notice the lines if I do some cool frames. Or something. This is not working.
For those who refuse to be seen in bifocals, we offer the perfect disguise. Verilux No-Line Bifocals. The vision you need, the look you want, none of the lines. Call for a Verilux professional near you.
Now, Billy, can you stand up?
I'll try.
That's good, that's good. Now, can you walk to that table over there?
I don't know.
Walk to the table. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
Yeah.
You know, your mama's going to be real happy to see you walking.
All right.
Tonight, Vice Presidential candidate Al Gore on the campaign trail with your phone calls. Tonight on Larry King Live 9.